Hello and happy Monday. Thank you for joining us for the kickoff session today. I'm sure this is probably just one of many virtual sessions and meetings that you'll be doing today while juggling life at home. So we appreciate your time. Being in education and training when COVID hit, I saw, a lot of frustration, anxiety, fears of the unknown. But I also saw grit and fortitude and persistence. And my personal favorite, I saw us doing things we said couldn't be done. In one way or another, we innovated. It may not have been pretty, but we made it, and we made it work, and we started to see the possibilities. And now we're teaching not from empty classrooms, but from space, from the mountains, from the beach, anywhere we want, all without leaving our houses. Now we have context and a vision. So what comes next? Good morning, everyone. I'm Paige Brooks-Jeffers, the Executive Director of Professional Development and Innovation with the Kentucky Community and Technical College System. Jamie Justice of Eon Reality is also with me, and he'll be providing some solutions for us in just a bit. KCTCS is a community college system with 16 colleges with over 70 campuses across the state and a system office for support and service. We have around 75,000 students around with all of the campuses. In mid-March, our campuses closed down, but our courses did not. It was spring break for some of our campuses, and other campuses were getting ready to go on spring break. So as the world began to close down around us, our faculty showed up. They scrambled and did whatever they needed to do to pivot almost overnight into a remote environment. They learned to create videos and post them online. They had students make videos for assessment. Students took pictures and uploaded them to show their work. They came up with so many different ways to push the boundaries and keep moving forward. And now, KCTCS, like colleges around the country and world, are planning for ambiguity. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. What we do know is that we must keep going forward. However, I don't think students will be so forgiving and understanding the second time around. We must be prepared for future events regardless of what happens. So, what can we do? First, we reevaluate what we know, especially now that we're doing things we didn't think we could do, so we know a little bit more. And second, we identify gaps that we still have, like maybe the hands-on skills, for example, and we work on solutions for those. KCTCS is a community college, and many of our courses utilized the remote format in several ways. However, there wasn't a substitution for hands-on skills, especially when the hands-on activities involved heavy, dangerous equipment. One strategy that continues to resurface is competency-based education. CBE is, among other things, where one must show competency or mastery of the application of skills they've learned. Before COVID struck, we were researching additional CBE methodologies and strategies for a possible expansion throughout our programs. During that, I've developed a few scenarios based on feedback we heard around CBE and online learning. This was pre-COVID. The first we had was, we'll say, Mary. Mary was a welding faculty member, and she's been teaching for several years, and she's familiar with the online environment. She even really likes some of the strategies, like the flipped classroom, where students do readings and prepare before coming to class, and then you can use the classroom time for discussion, practice, and application. But Mary also really likes the value of face-to-face and in-person time. And she knows the skills that her workforce that those in her workforce field expect students to be able to do, and she knows those have to be proven in person. She does have some of her faculty colleagues that teach online courses, but Mary does question assessing competencies, especially for the hands-on technical skills. Because nothing beats the hands-on, and she's been considering, however, if and how she can move more of her content online. And if she did that, how would she handle the assessment of those technical skills that have always been practiced and performed in the lab? Next we have Jim. Jim teaches EMS at a community college, and he wants to expand the number of students he can reach while still maintaining integrity and high quality. But it's a one-person program, and there are only so many days in a week and so many hours in a day, and so he's been researching ways to do more with less. He knows his program must maintain a competency-based format. However, he also realizes he may need to be a bit more innovative, flexible, and open-minded, which he admits can be difficult for a seasoned faculty member such as himself who is set in their ways. And finally, we have Deanna. Deanna teaches in a nursing program, and her college has already been looking into some CBE possibilities. But now they're looking at also adding flexible programming options to better meet the students' needs. Her program has been hybrid, so online and in person, for several years, and as many technical programs are, it's already been based on a competency-based format, knowing that they have to demonstrate the application of knowledge and understanding. However, implementing the flexible options for students cannot overwhelm the faculty, the labs, or the equipment and supplies. If students are moving through the course as they master competencies, so they're at different levels throughout the course, how can Deanna ensure that all students meet all competencies, while she's also maintaining faculty loads, making sure that equipment and supplies that are needed, the lab time, clinical time, and space, all of those are available. So those are some scenarios we came up with, and then COVID happened. So schools closed, campuses closed, daycares closed, ride-alongs closed, hospitals were off limits for our students. We donated our PPE, so then we didn't have PPE for, even if the students could come back, for them to demonstrate any of their skills. So as we tried to plan for the unknown, which we're being told includes another spike and a new normal for a little while, we have many more things now to consider. We can have less people in labs and classrooms at once. All of the equipment has to be cleaned in between student groups coming in to use it. And now we also need to make sure that we have supplies for everyone, including PPE, for not only our healthcare programs, but all programs, to make sure that everyone's safe. So with these new procedures in place, what solutions could we have so that these students can demonstrate their knowledge without actually being there in person, and maybe not actually being in the lab or even with an instructor? Wouldn't it be great if we could establish a base competency by utilizing tools that would allow students to become better prepared on their schedule safely in maybe a virtual world? And then once they satisfy the virtual requirements, they could then be scheduled and brought in for their face-to-face and in-person hands-on required work. This would also allow the faculty to schedule making sure that they had the equipment, the space, and everything cleaned and ready for that student. Plus, it allows that faculty member to have that one-on-one connection with that student, allowing them to help them make sure that they understand not only the hows but the whys of what they're doing, or improve their techniques of certain skills. So, Jamie, can you provide any ideas and solutions on how we can continue to provide safe, quality instruction to students while incorporating CBE principles, online learning, and the COVID-19 precautions that we're now faced with?
Thank you, Paige, and hello everyone. These are the most challenging times of our lifetime, and yet it's a time of innovation and change that's driven by necessity. As Paige shared in her opening remarks, educators were exploring and considering other modalities and methods of instruction, and then came COVID-19. Now everyone and everything is pretty much online. And the same challenges exist in education now, but those challenges have grown in a hard to predict order of magnitude, as we don't know what the future will involve for the start of the fall semester or summer courses or future episodes that may occur. Prior to the shutdowns, it was becoming obvious that 2020 was a line of demarcation in the area of augmented and virtual reality integration into the teaching and learning process. Prior to 2020, there were many random acts of progress using virtual or augmented reality to enhance student learning and engagement. All of these integrations and attempts opened the door to the future of learning. But as 2020 arrived, all the pieces had finally converged to enable strategic applications and integration, sparking a new visual revolution, if you will, that can fundamentally change teaching and learning, especially in career and technical education. In my role as Director of Education, North America and Global Innovation with Eon Reality, I've been able to observe and participate in this transformation, ranging from global partnerships with higher education, governments, the VR Innovation Academies, changes in software and hardware solutions that enable innovational instructors to build applications once and then share them on smartphones, smart devices, in an augmented and virtual reality mode, on headset displays such as your Oculus Rift, gaming devices, and traditional PCs. Eon Reality is a world leader in enabling this transformation. With the AVR platform and our global partnerships, along with education programs, we are responding to new demands with our Global Emergency Initiative to help education providers rapidly adapt and adopt these new learner demands. Going back to Paige's remarks, however, I think there are many ways that interactive, augmented, and virtual reality delivered content can be used to address the many of the challenges that have been raised. Thinking about those scenarios that she shared, I want to share with you several examples of the types of applications that you can create matching your own curriculum and existing lessons, but using AVR technology. The Eon Reality AVR platform and our experience with supporting education, faculty can be enabled and empowered to create powerful, immersive, remote learning that is fun, engaging, and exciting. So let's begin by looking at what an AVR application actually looks like, and then let's explore ways that it can be created and the features that are available through the AVR platform. This design and process allows teachers like Mary, Jim, and Deanna to think differently about how to engage and facilitate student learning. The AVR platform can empower them to create applications that specifically meet their desired learner outcomes and to effectively supplement hands-on learning through virtual means. Applications created can provide unique learning approaches, such as self-directed instruction modules created by the students themselves to enable peer-to-peer learning and active learning experiences that reinforce key objectives and learning outcomes. You can also do remote group virtual learning experiences in real time with several users using the same application to further grow these aspects of the learning process. So let me begin by showing you what applications look like, beginning with an application being used via my cell phone and then using some AR as part of that process to show how we can place things that are large or small in our own virtual world environment, wherever we are, whenever we are, using the devices, many of the devices that we already have. So let's begin. Okay, so I thought about the scenario question that Mary posed about placing technical content in an online format to assess student understanding or to provide opportunity for them to learn about physical equipment in an online world. And so to that end, I did a little research and I found a model and created a brief lesson in the AVR platform that you see here before you. And I created a lesson on the fundamentals of MIG welding guns. So I created that one time. I built it in the AVR desktop and then I deployed it into the platform. And so I go to my cell phone, and that's what you're seeing now as I share that. And I'll go to my workspace and I will find this lesson. Now, actually, this lesson can be sent to a student from out of the LMS. They could click a link there, or you can send it to a link to them by email to assign the lesson, or you can assign it to them from directly inside of the AVR platform. When they look at the application, this is what they see in their cell phone screen. And you could also, as a faculty, you could edit. You can edit the lesson over here. You can start there and edit the lesson. You can start the lesson, or you can play it in remote desktop mode. In that case, the collaborate mode allows multiple students to work around the same model. So they could talk about it. You could run a session and have students use this. You can also download this on your phone in standalone mode for when you're not using online, or for later. So you can also set it up that way. All right, so let's start the lesson quickly. And I'm in a tool called Flow, so you're going to see my actual computer mouse running this, but I'm also running it by finger touches as well. So when this loads now, so I'm a student, this lesson's been sent to me, and now I'm able to go through and experience this lesson. I can expand this model, I can condense it. I can look at it in transparency mode to look at things a little differently. I can take three fingers together and I can move it wherever I want to, or I can spin it around in its environment. Included in the application, I created an introduction.
MIG welding is an arc welding process in which a continuous
And then also I can add a video, which will let the screen start to run, and then I'll stop that in just a second. All right, so a video will load here, and we stop that, and we'll go back for sake of time. There's also a function that you'll see in this area right here. That is a recording control function, and so I can do a lecture demonstration. So perhaps I want to, in real time, as the teacher or faculty member, point out certain key points. So there are two modes of this. There is a demonstration mode or a lecture mode from the instructor where they can point with a laser pointer and the students can move and see it, or there's a direct screen recording mode. So I'm going to play this briefly, but I'll be very, very quick with it. This is a typical MIG welding gun, and a couple of things to point out to you. First, I'd like to begin with here at the end. One of the most important skills that you'll first develop when you begin MIG welding is maintaining wire stick out. Wire stick out is something that you have to develop a feel for or an understanding. All right, so you get the idea there. So you have the laser pointer that points things out, and students can move that around and manipulate it and look at it. So there's more lesson that can take place. But I also thought I would share with you the fact that you can play this in an augmented and virtual reality mode. So I'm going to try to put this on my desktop here for just a moment. And if I can get the angle just right here, we'll do that. And so now I have this welding gun in my house, and I can make it as big as I want to make it. Right now it's on my desk, and so just for sake of space here, I can move around, and I can do the lessons, and I can go into also a VR mode. And in VR mode, this is in a Google box, and so now everywhere I look, you'll see details happen on the parts. So as I look at each part of the model, I can see that. But I'll go back to pinch mode now, and we're back into normal cell phone mode. Okay, for sake of time, we'll go through some more parts of the lessons. The next thing that will come up is a memo that has some narration.
The purpose for your MIG welding nozzle is pretty straight.
So you can write a script and cut and paste that from your lesson plan here and talk about nozzles. In this case, we talked about them being made from copper or brass. Again, I can have a video that's overlaid that goes along with it. This can be your lesson, or it can be a lesson that you find from online as a resource. All right, so quickly I'm going to go through. I'm going to find a locate button here, and it's going to ask me to locate a part, and I have to find that by double clicking on it. So we're going to find the swan neck, and there it is, and I'll check the tick box, and that's correct. All right, a few more features that I built in. I did several locate, so we'll do one more and then we'll move to an identify and then we'll move on. All right, so I'm defining the trigger this time, so I have 30 seconds to do that. I'll double click on the trigger, and if I can get it to go here, there we go. Is that the trigger? No, I don't think that's the trigger. That's the handle. So we'll find out that I had the wrong answer. So I've got one more chance here to do it. I think that's the trigger. And so there are feedback loops that are captured and data is captured on use of. So there's no need to do another locate. This is another memo with information on the table spring.
Is a protected.
And then lastly, there's identify mode. And in this case, I have to input text and I have a set amount of time to put in that text. And so I'll say nozzle. I'm going to do it on my keyboard because it's a little faster but right now, and that way for demonstration purposes. And I'll do the tick box, and that was the correct answer. And then lastly, there are some quizzes that are built into the lesson. And so we'll take the first quiz, and I can write my own quiz questions. So you can make this bigger or smaller. And actually, probably the wrong term there. It should be mid-gun, or nozzle actually. So then here's another memo on welding wire, and then lastly I'll do one more quiz question just to show that you can do other types of content, not just on the model itself, but you can use this to kind of reinforce other topics that you shared through video and demonstration. So in Mary's scenario, there are lots of ways that you can infuse hands-on content in online lessons by using digital assets that you create and display and share with students on any device they have, whether it's an iPhone or an Android device, smart devices, tablets, PCs, or if they have head-mount displays, they can play that. They can play it on their PC and all at home. So that gives you a quick idea of what it looks like in the phone. I'm going to exit there and just once again recap, that in scenario one for Mary's case, there's many ways that you can approach putting online content using augmented and virtual reality. So in response to Jim's concerns about being limited with being a one-man program and how to do more with less, I did a little thinking about that, and I searched one of the academies, and I found this medical backboard lesson as an example. This was created by students in one of the virtual reality Innovation Academies that I work with as one of their capstone projects, and it provided an opportunity for some self-directed learning where I gave them a scenario to create a lesson to help demonstrate a safety device for training volunteers to help at a hospital, or for EMS training or other kind of categories. So this kind of lends itself very well to what Jim could do as an innovative way to address not being able to cover all the things that he wants to do, so as supplemental assignments or other activities. So I just clicked play this lesson from out of the platform, and it's loading on another screen. But in the meantime, I could edit the lesson, I could play the lesson, I could launch it in VR. And so this time we're going to look at, just as we did a few moments ago, the student would get this, they could play it on their cell phone, but in this case we're just going to play it on a PC for sake of time. There's a set of directions here that tells you what each control means, so it makes it easy for the students to navigate and get through. And we also provide a training for students and for faculty on using the platform and how to deliver. So this is a quick lesson on backboarding, and the students developed this with introductions and so forth to do it. The student actually made this model. And so there's video infused inside of it as well on the procedure for how to properly backboard someone.
Final mobilization should be.
Then there are all the same features that you saw before. So now we have the task here. This time they're being required to build all the parts of the backboard so they understand what the pieces are and where they go together. So I have a challenge here of putting all these parts in place. So those are the middle straps, those are the front straps, these are the bottom straps in the right location where they belong. And then lastly we'll bring the bottom piece up here. Whoops, I'll get turned around. And there we go. So I correctly rebuilt the model. Again, just some quick things that can be done, lots of memos with videos and other pieces of instruction. It only takes just a few minutes to build these, and so it was easy to design and create. So this is just one example of how Jim could double his time by having a number of these micro-learning lessons created on the AVR platform that he can launch and that students can go to and access. So that as they look at their institute, they would have all these options. So for example, here's a PPE lesson. Here's one on how intratracheal procedures for patients happen. This is one that was created on how to make a ventilator. So there's all types of things that you can create, and you can search them by your category. So in his case, that would be medical, and so these were the ones that were medical in this particular category. So for Jim, there's lots of options where he can build units of instruction that are small snippets or blocks of content in the platform around object-centered types of things, but he can also add to that and provide other experiences. And again, the students can play those on their smart devices, head-mount displays, or other on their PC screen. So very quickly, with regard to scenario 3 and the question of Deanna about how to ensure that all students meet competencies in maintaining faculty loads, equipment, supply needs. Well, equipment can be certainly managed a lot better because you may not afford to buy a jet engine, but you can do a virtual version of it. So you have easier access to allow all students to experiment with higher level expensive pieces of equipment without having to buy those pieces of equipment. That's one of the beautiful things about augmented and virtual reality applications. So you can allow them access to things that may not be within 100 miles of them, for example, or that costs a lot of money. Secondly, I'll just take a quick glimpse back into the advanced mode and allow you to see that you can pull data from student work. So if I go to content, and I'm just going to choose one lesson or one group of content altogether here. I'll just take this parts of the human lung, since she was using as a nursing comparison. And I can look at statistics, and I can see that on this particular application that it's had one person do it, but you would see your entire class here. So we can also look and see what I actually did as a student. So I completed the introduction. No, I skipped it. Annotation, I skipped that. Then there's, the build, I didn't do very well. I didn't do the thyroid and so forth. So we have data that we can pull back from that. Also, just very quickly, I can show you how you manage your students when you place them into the platform. And so once this loads, you can manage as lead admin or teacher. You can set roles for the students. You can award licenses. You can add people into the academy or the institute that you're using. You can assign courses and so forth. So I can take Jamie here and I can open up the information and I can assign him to learn. I can assign him to teach. So we can go to these different courses and have him do a particular thing as a particular assignment. This is where I send passwords and so forth. Lastly, I have reports that I can pull that shows usage reports from date ranges, so I can see if my class has actually been accessing this at all. So I gave an assignment in February and I want to know where everyone is at. I can see that, well, there's been 43 logins, 82 mobile logins, so out of 140 students, I have a bunch who still haven't completed things yet. So there's data that you can pull from here. So in answer to that last question, then it's basically, we'll head back home here. It's basically, yes, that you can pull data and show that how students are completing and doing the tasks related to each one of these objects. You can use these objects to create lessons that are in turn linked to your curriculum so that you can use those for matching to competencies. So there's all kinds of different ways you can approach and use this, and really it's a creative platform that enables you to do things that you really couldn't do because you can't afford to buy that piece of equipment maybe, or you can't get enough students close enough. And in many cases you can see things in the virtual environment that you can't in the real world environment. Also, in response to all three scenarios, I wanted to quickly share with you the fact that you can place someone in environments that they couldn't possibly be because of being able to use 360 video to create lessons as well. So to the example of all three, that we can show students what it looks like to be in a virtual surgery, or we can go into a virtual operating room with lessons that are created. So this is the same type of scenario that you saw earlier. We can see that I can go from here to 360 situation, which was the video I think we were just playing. This is through the patient's eyes. And so now I'm looking at this in 360 video. And we can have them role play and see scenarios or identify procedures that are maybe done correctly or incorrectly. So that's a very, very good competency-based scenario. We can look around the room and maybe have them take a look at this video on surgical carts and get some background.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Surgical Tech Tips. Today,
there may be
This card is arranged based upon type of surgery to be performed.
Or after you've gone through all the lesson scenarios, there can be quizzes that are embedded inside of the lesson. So now when I look around, I will see quizzes. And so now I have a quiz to answer on this piece as well. So we're going to answer that one correctly and we'll be finished. So just want to give you just another scenario of the way that you can use the AVR platform. We can also use 360 images and linked 360 video to place students in real environments and help with competency education. So this also applies to all three of the scenarios asked earlier.
Wow, thanks for that demo, Jamie. I can see how EON's tools can not only help students learn the material, but it can also immerse them into a surrounding, and it can assess their knowledge. So as EON is a content creation tool and not a content provider, how many faculty have students use it to create their content? I could see this as being an effective way to assess their content, their understanding, and knowledge of application.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And yes, students can create lessons themselves as a way to learn about a topic. So we have developed some documents that is a self-directed instructional design brief document, if you will, that students can use, that an instructor provides them with a challenge, a set of criteria that they need to meet. They can then access the platform and build a lesson, and then they share that lesson with their classmates for peer-to-peer, active learning, self-engagement. You learn by doing. And the research that goes into creating that application reinforces your learning from class. So it's a very powerful tool to engage learners in a different way. And to think about it, especially as an activity from an online application to where students have to build and create this content and then share that as a project work to turn back in. Very easy to do, very engaging, and a fun thing in many cases for most students. And the good news is it doesn't require any special computers or any special equipment at home. They can build it from off their iPhone, they can build it from off their Android device, or they can build it off of most PCs. Unfortunately, you don't do it on the Mac environment at present, but that's coming. So, but easy access, easy to do, and a great way to engage learners.
Oh, that's a great application. I can easily see the uses in tech courses. Do you have any use cases for use in the Gen Ed world?
Yeah, that's also a great question. I can easily see lots of applications for Gen Ed. You know, it can be medieval structures, historical equipment in history, you know, thinking of cannon or wagons or devices or buildings, forts and historical monuments and all number of things that can be modeled and created. I actually had a student do a structure on temples and the Fibonacci sequence, I think it's called, and he had that embedded inside of the model itself, and it was an interesting study in architecture. So yeah, there's many ways you can use it, and it's very easy to use and put together. Once again, you can do student self-directed learning, remote learning experiences, and the other thing that's exciting is when you put it in AR mode, you can blow that building up full size and walk through it. And I've seen that done in several applications as well. So using your phone, as you look in your phone lens, you're actually standing inside of a temple or some historical location.
Oh, that's really creative. I like hearing that there's application in any field or discipline or on any content. Can instructors reuse or repurpose content, either theirs or their students, as they continually improve their online course content development or delivery? Like, as they're building new content, could they bring those pieces in that have already been built to make some content better?
So yeah, that's a very good question also, and I guess all of them are good questions. So yeah, it is a very creative way to share and develop content. So The student created content, your developed content as a faculty member is yours. It's your intellectual property. You're simply hosting it on our AVR platform and using licenses to access and deliver the instruction. So as far as creating an application, once it's created, you can easily edit it just in the same manner that you created it. You just click on the edit function and you're able to go in and change it around, update it and upgrade it, and build around the same asset each time as you create. And same thing with other work. Now you can't edit other people's work, but you can edit anything that you create yourself.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a great way to provide examples to students. But as an instructor, how do I know if students are interacting with the content? Is there some kind of tracking or data that I can look at?
Thank you for asking that question. So yeah, there are ways that faculty can track students, as I shared with you in one of the earlier scenarios, that through the back end there are analytics that are captured of usage statistics by students for completion. There are reports on usage, there are reports on tracking, the time frame, and so you can see that students are working or not working. And so this data is captured based on applications that you make, and you can follow up on students to see where they are. So yeah, we do have the tracking built into the background of the application as well.
Well, Jamie, this all sounds great, but how would instructors get trained? And then would they have to train their students, or is training provided for students as well?
We do offer quite a few options for training. There's a 30-minute online training, 30-minute approximately, for students that they can access for how to use the platform. We have a good number of help and guidance videos and support documentation inside of the application itself. We offer a master educator training program that's about a half day online. Then we also have a program under development beyond that that's a little longer for education professionals. We offer training for business and industry professionals to use the platform, and also we will be offering a training application for lead administrators of the academies. So we provide a good number of resources to help you be successful with this AVR platform in all aspects, and I think that you'll find it's very easy, very intuitive to use, and again, the fact that you can do it from any device is really kind of exciting and powerful. So, we liken it almost to a new version of PowerPoint as far as style of creation and the like, and I think it's something that most people will pick up and will really enjoy doing once they get into it. I have a lot of fun building applications, so I hope you will too. Please consider it, and I think you'll see that you're only limited by your own imagination and creativity as to what you can do with this platform, and there's nothing else like it. It's just an exciting piece of technology that can change the way we teach and learn.
Thank you, Jamie. I enjoyed learning about the possibilities of AVR in education and training, and I hope our guests did as well. Did you have any final comments before we open it up for questions?
Thank you for allowing me to share with you today the Eon Reality AVR platform. It's been a pleasure to share with you the future of augmented and virtual reality and how it can impact teaching and learning, especially in career and technical education and competency-based education scenarios. For more information, go to eonreality.com. You can open up a freemium account, or you can go to either the Google Play Store or the Apple Play Store and download the Creator AVR app to begin experiencing this on your own. We look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you found this information very helpful. Thank you, Paige, for your leadership and all that you've done in the Kentucky Community Technical College system and our years of working together. Have a great day. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today and talk about how AVR is an up-and-coming medium that can be used to immerse students in content for a real-world practice and understanding. We'd now like to open up this conversation to any questions in the audience and want to thank you for joining us today.